quality threshold. You meet someone new. The conversation is pleasant. They suggest hanging out again. You say sure, but internally you're calculating whether they're worth the time, not in a cruel way, just honest. You have a quality threshold most people don't have. Casual friendships don't interest you. Surface level connections feel like work without reward. You'd rather have 2 friends who actually know you than 20 who know a performed version. This isn't pickiness for the sake of it. It's psychological efficiency. Your brain assigns value differently than others. Most people collect social connections like trading cards. More equals better. Your brain operates on return on investment. How deep can this go? How much understanding exists? How authentic can we be? If those answers are shallow, your brain rejects the connection before it starts. This quality threshold formed early, probably from experiences where quantity proved meaningless. You had lots of friends once maybe. Then you realized most of them didn't actually know you. They knew the version you performed. The real you stayed hidden. So you stopped collecting people and started curating them. The small number isn't a failure. It's a filter working exactly as designed. Energy economics. Every social interaction costs something. Small talk at work, texting back and forth, making plans, following through on plans, pretending to be more energetic than you feel. Each piece withdraws from an account that refills slowly. You learned early that you have less social energy than others, not because something's wrong with you, because your nervous system is wired differently. Extroverts gain energy from people. Their account fills through interaction. Your account drains. Every conversation, every hangout, every group setting pulls from a limited reserve. This isn't antisocial. It's metabolic. Your brain processes social information more thoroughly. Every facial expression gets analyzed. Every tone shift gets noticed. Every social cue requires active interpretation. That processing demands energy, more energy than most people need to spend on the same interaction. So you make a choice. Spend the limited energy you have on many shallow connections, or invest deeply in a few people who justify the cost. You chose the latter, not because you don't like people, because you can't afford to like everyone. The small friend count is financial planning applied to social energy. You're not broke. You're just careful with spending. Authenticity requirement. You tried being friends with someone who always performed. Every story was exaggerated. Every emotion seemed calculated. Every interaction felt like watching a show instead of having a conversation. You couldn't do it. Something in you rejects inauthenticity like a bad transplant. This isn't judgment. It's a psychological need for realness. Your brain can detect performance, the gap between what people say and what they mean, the mask they wear versus who they actually are. And once you detect it, you can't unsee it. Most people tolerate social performance. They perform too. It's the agreed upon game of polite society, but you can't play that game for long without exhausting yourself. Your authenticity requirement means friendships have a high bar. People have to be willing to drop the mask, to show you the unedited version, to be honest even when it's uncomfortable. Most people won't do that. They're too scared of judgment, too invested in managing their image, so they stay surface level and you stay uninterested. The few friends you have passed the test, they showed you who they really are. That's why they're still around. You didn't reject all those other people because you're difficult. You rejected the performance because you need the real person underneath. Selective investment. Friendship isn't passive for you. It's active, intentional, resource intensive. You remember details. You check in. You show up when it matters. You invest emotionally, mentally, and practically. This level of investment can't be spread thin. You have bandwidth for a few people, maybe 3, maybe 5. That's it. Not because you don't care about others, because caring at the depth you operate requires focus. You can't deeply know 20 people. You can't show up consistently for 20 people. You can't maintain emotional intimacy with 20 people. So you don't try. You select a few and invest everything. This looks like having no friends to outsiders, but to the people you've selected, you're one of the most present people they know. You're the friend who remembers what they said 3 months ago, who notices when something's off, who doesn't just hear words but understands what's underneath them. That kind of friendship is rare because it's expensive. Most people can't afford to give that much. You can't afford not to. Shallow friendship feels like wasted effort. Deep investment feels like the only thing worth doing. So your friend count stays low, but the friendships themselves run deeper than most people experience in a lifetime. Independence baseline. You've been self-sufficient since you can remember, not because you had to be, because it felt natural. You solved your own problems, entertained yourself, made your own decisions. Other people seem to need constant input, validation, and collaboration. You didn't. This independence became your baseline. You don't need people the way others seem to. You enjoy connection when it's genuine, but you don't require it for daily functioning. This makes friendship optional rather than essential. Most people collect friends partly out of need. They need someone to talk to, someone to make plans with, someone to validate validate their choices. You don't have those needs at the same intensity. You're already comfortable with yourself, already capable of occupying your own time, already confident in your decisions. This independence is both strength and barrier. Strength because you're not desperately seeking connection to fill a void. Barrier because you don't feel the social pressure that drives most people to maintain large friend groups. You're not lonely when you're alone, so the motivation to accumulate friends just doesn't exist. You form friendships when genuine connection appears, not because you need to fill a social quota. Stimulation sensitivity. Large groups overwhelm you, not because of social anxiety, because of a sensory overload. Too many voices, too many people to track, too much unpredictability. Your nervous system processes more information per interaction than average. This makes one-on-one time ideal and group settings exhausting. You prefer deep conversation with one person over surface chatter with 10, not as a preference, as a biological necessity. Your brain needs lower stimulation environments to function comfortably. Crowds, parties, and group activities push you past that threshold quickly. This stimulation sensitivity naturally limits your friend count because friendships often happen in group contexts. Social events, gatherings, activities, these are where most people build and maintain connections. You can't tolerate those settings for long, so you miss the opportunities others use to expand their circles. The friends you do have understand this about you. They're okay with quiet time, with one-on-one hangs, with low-key activities that don't require you to manage sensory chaos. Most people aren't okay with that. They want the energy of groups, the excitement of crowds. You can't give them that without depleting yourself, so they drift away and you let them. The few who stay are the ones who match your stimulation needs. Pattern recognition. You see people clearly, too clearly sometimes. You notice when someone's words don't match their actions, when their stories have inconsistencies, when they present one way but behave another. This pattern recognition is automatic. You're not trying to analyze people. Your brain just does it. This makes you good at identifying who's trustworthy and who isn't, but it also makes you reject people faster than others. You see red flags early, the small dishonesty, the subtle manipulation, the performative kindness that disappears when it's inconvenient. Most people miss these patterns or excuse them. You can't. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it, and you won't invest in someone whose pattern shows unreliability. This keeps your friend count low because most people are inconsistent. They mean well, but they don't follow through. They say they care, but they disappear when things get hard. Your pattern recognition sorts them out before deep friendship forms. The few friends you have passed the consistency test, their words match actions, their patterns show reliability. That's not luck. It's your brain doing quality control before you get hurt. Self-sufficiency. You don't need people to entertain you. You have books, projects, hobbies, interests that occupy your time fully. You're genuinely content alone. This self-sufficiency removes the desperation that drives a lot of friendships. People befriend others partly because they need someone to do things with, someone to kill time with, someone to prevent boredom. You don't have that need. You're never bored alone. Your internal world is rich enough to sustain you indefinitely. This changes the friendship equation. You're not seeking people to fill time. You're seeking people who add something you can't generate yourself. Perspective, challenge, emotional resonance, shared understanding. That's a much higher bar than just needing company. Most potential friends don't clear it. They're pleasant, but they don't add anything you're missing. So the friendship never deepens. You remain friendly, but not friends. This self-sufficiency looks like isolation to people who need others to feel whole, but you're not isolated. You're complete on your own. Friendships are enhancement, not requirement, and enhancements are valuable but optional. Depth over breadth. You hate small talk. You hate surface conversations about weather and weekend plans. You want to talk about things that matter, ideas, feelings, questions that don't have easy answers. You need depth in your interactions or you tune out completely. Most friendships start shallow and deepen slowly over time. You don't have patience for that process. You want to skip the shallow part and go straight to depth. This makes you incompatible with most people. They're not ready for depth with someone they just met. They need the slow build, the gradual trust, the comfortable shallow phase before vulnerability enters. You find that phase unbearable, so you either push for depth too fast and scare people off, or you disengage because the conversation isn't stimulating enough. Either way, the friendship doesn't form. The rare people who can go deep quickly become your people. They're the ones who also hate small talk, who also want real conversation from the start, who can handle intensity without needing months of warm-up. Those people are rare. That's why your friend count is low. You're not interested in building a wide network. You're interested in finding the few people who speak your language. Social predictability. You hate surprises. You hate last-minute plans. You hate ambiguity about what's happening and who's going to be there. Your brain needs predictability to feel safe. This makes you seem rigid to people who thrive on spontaneity, but it's not rigidity. It's self-protection. Unpredictable social situations create anxiety, not social anxiety in the clinical sense, just nervous system discomfort. Your brain likes to prepare, to know what's coming, to have a clear picture of the environment before entering it. When plans friends are vague or constantly changing, your brain can't prepare. It stays on alert. That's exhausting. Most friendships involve some degree of spontaneity. Hey, let's grab drinks. Impromptu hangouts. Surprise guests at gatherings. These things don't work for you. You need advance notice, clear details, confirmation that what you agreed to is actually what's happening. People find this annoying. They think you're being difficult. They don't understand you're managing your nervous system, so they stop inviting you, and you're okay with that. The friends who remain understand your need for predictability. They plan in advance. They communicate clearly. They don't spring surprises. Those friendships work because the structure matches your needs. Internal validation. You don't need constant affirmation. You don't need people telling you you're doing well or making the right choices. You have an internal compass that provides that validation. This makes you less dependent on friendship for ego support. Most people use friends partly as mirrors. They need reflection, reassurance, external confirmation that they're okay. You don't need that at the same frequency or intensity. You trust your own judgment. You know your own worth. You don't require a crowd to confirm it. This independence from external validation reduces your need for friends. You're not seeking people to make you feel good about yourself. You already feel fine. You seek people for connection, not confirmation. That's a much narrower search. Most friendships involve some level of mutual ego support. Friends hype each other up, validate each other's choices, provide reassurance when doubt appears. You can do that for others, but you don't need it back at the same intensity. This asymmetry makes friendships harder to maintain. People feel like they're giving more validation than they receive. They're not wrong. You just don't need as much as they do. Comfortable solitude. You're alone a lot and you're fine with it. Not just tolerating it, actually enjoying it. Your nervous system regulates better in solitude. Your thoughts clarify. Your energy restores. Your sense of self strengthens. Other people seem to fear being alone. They fill every gap with plans. They panic when weekends are empty. They need constant company to feel okay. You don't. Solitude is your natural state. Company is the deviation. This comfort with aloneness removes the social urgency most people feel. They need friends to avoid loneliness. You're not lonely when you're alone, so the drive to maintain friendships for companionship doesn't exist. You maintain friendships because the specific person adds value, not because you need any person to fill silence. This makes you selective by default. You're not collecting friends to avoid being alone. You're choosing specific people because they're worth interrupting your comfortable solitude. Most people don't clear that bar. Being alone is already good. They'd have to be better than alone to justify inclusion. That's a high standard, and it keeps your friend count low. But the friends who meet it know they're chosen intentionally, not kept around out of fear of being alone. Chosen because they're genuinely valued. Which of these explains something you felt your whole life but never had words for? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more videos that actually understand how your brain works, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.